So, welcome to our webinar today about Green Thumb Award winners. These are very exciting and innovative products. I'm Diane Blazek with National Garden Bureau. We sponsor the Green Thumb Award program, and I have with me a number of panelists. So let's see if I'm not going to do these in any certain order. I'm going to introduce them briefly, and then I'll circle back and have each one of them tell you a little bit about themselves and their companies. So we have Allison from Taki Europe Sahin. We have Dylan from Pan American Seed. We have Jason from Cicada Seed. Heather is here from Leaf Joy Proven Winners. Lisa is here from Danzinger. Natalie is here from Spring Meadow Nursery. Paula is here from Crescent Garden. And Ryan is here from Bailey Nursery. And we may or may not have Katie from Monrovia. I'm trying to look and do this all at the same time. If not, I will step in later to reintroduce her. So the order that I went, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Allison.
Sure. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm from Sahin, Taki Europe. We are a breeding company based in the Netherlands. What's great about, I think, Sahin, which is good for you guys, consumers, is that a lot of the seed packets you get at the grocery stores, we breed a lot of the flowers that go in those seed packets. So you'll find everything from home garden in the Sahin side of Taki Europe. So everything interesting. My favorite, of course, is the sunflowers, but you have a range from vegetables all the way to sweet peas to sunflowers, of course, and everything in between. So it's a fun time.
Great, thank you. Next up, I think I introduced Dylan next.
Yep. Hey, everyone. My name's Dylan Sedmak, and I work for Pan American Seed. Pan American Seed is a breeder of primarily flowers. So we're primarily known for some of our flowers like wave petunias, for example. But I'm here to talk about our vegetables, which is my favorite of our breeding programs. And for our vegetables, we really focus on varieties that work really well for the home gardener. And I think some of our Green Thumb Award winners that we've had this year and last year in the edibles categories are great examples of varieties that would do well. So we'll talk more about those later, but nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Dylan. Okay, Jason, welcome back for another webinar.
Yep, good to be here. Hello, everyone. So I work for Cicada Seed America. Cicada Seed is a worldwide leader in vegetable and ornamental breeding. We're especially well known for our vegetables. One of our items is kind of a fun fact. We are extremely well known for broccoli. We are known as the Broccoli Kings, and if you go to a grocery store, I don't care where you are in North America or your local farm market, and you pick up a head of broccoli to cook for that evening, 75% chance that that's a cicada bred variety. So me specifically, what I do, I work for a division called Cicada Homegrown, where I sell our vegetable varieties into the home gardener market, where you guys would all access it, whether it's a seed packet or mail order through someone like Burpee or something like that. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you very much. And Heather Wheatley.
Hi, I'm Heather Wheatley. I'm from Proven Winners North America, and I'm the marketing manager for Leaf Joy. I love houseplants, but I really do love broccoli and sunflower. So thank you all for the work that you put into the world. It's all very meaningful, and I appreciate it. And it enriches my family and my home, and that's the thing that I love about houseplants is that as a horticultural category, it really is about health and wellness. So we definitely focus on connecting people to very healthy plant material with the proper genus and epithet so that they know how to grow it so that it's successful. Um, so, health and wellness is really important, but it'll make you crazy if you start killing houseplants. So we make sure that you're successful with those houseplants. So Leaf Joy is leading the way in that category now. So it's nice to meet everyone.
Thank you so much, Heather. And Katie, my apologies. I think I skipped over you earlier. Katie from Doom and Orange, let's hear about you and your company.
My name is Katie Miller, and I work for Doom and Orange, and I am the perennial product manager for our North American division. So my whole world is perennials. So We are a breeding company, and then we are also a cutting supplier. So you will find our plant material across the United States and Canada, and in retailers, whether you're going to the garden center, if you're going to Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, you'll find our products all over the nation at many of those retailers.
Thank you very much. And now, Lisa.
Hi there, I'm Lisa Heredia. I'm with Danziger North America. We are a global breeding company as well. We focus on annuals and perennials as well as cut flowers. And like Katie mentioned, we also supply the cuttings for a lot of the big growers in the country. They're growing for all of the garden centers, big boxes. And but we one of the brands you might be familiar with that's in the garden centers and has been around for a few years is the Amore Petunia. That's the one that has the hearts on it. So that one's really fun because it's all about sharing the love. And being around over 70 years, we've really evolved a lot. But we're a global company, but everything that we sell in the North American market, we test and trial in the North American market. So it may, even if it does great in, say, Holland or China, we make sure it's going to grow well for you in this market. And we're testing all over the country to make sure it's right for you.
Excellent. Thank you. And now, Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie Carmoli. I am the public relations specialist for Spring Meadow Nursery. We are in Grand Haven, Michigan, along the west coast, along the lakeshore of Lake Michigan. We are a wholesale liner producer of shrubs. Liners are basically those very small starter shrubs that a grower then takes and grows into the full-size plant that you would see in your nursery or your local garden center. We grow millions and millions of those shrubs every year for the Proven Winners Color Choice Shrub line. We work with breeders all over the world in order to find great shrubs, including we also have a lot of great breeders here at Spring Meadow Nursery. So we're always looking for improvements. We're always looking at ways to make shrubs better, more beautiful, easier to grow, more disease resistant. And that's what today's all about, I think. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see everybody else's shrubs and learn about them and their plants and their vegetables and learn about them as well. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, Paula, representing our non-plant category.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Dewar, and I'm representing Crescent Garden. And we try to do everything we can to take everything all these folks put out there, the beautiful plants, the vegetables, everything, into container gardening and making consumers be able to grow things successfully. And we're all about helping you just grow better plants. So innovating with both design and functionality to just make it easier to grow plants in containers.
Thank you for doing that. It does make growing easier. Last but not least is Ryan.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan McEnany, and I work for a company called Bailey Nurseries. We are a wholesale grower, so we've been around for 120 years this year. Still a family-owned business, and the way that I kind of like to explain it is we're like the Procter and Gamble behind some of the brands you know. So we're the P&G where you buy Crest Dawn Herbal Essences at the convenience store. We have Endless Summer Hydrangeas, First Editions, Shrubs and Trees, and Easy Elegance Roses are the brands that we own that you'll find in the garden centers. And as a grower, we're doing everything from the small plants and the breeding work through those finished containers that you find in a garden center. So we're really, really lucky to have that ability to do all of that testing, trialing, both in the garden so that you know exactly what you're getting, as well as the production side of it, so that our growers know exactly what they're getting so that you get a really healthy plant at the end of the day. So this will be a lot of fun. Excited to talk about all the Green Thumb winners. Thanks for having us, Diane.
Yes, thank you. And oh my goodness, I'm looking at our panel and thinking this is a huge portion of the industry, of the plants that you see at retail are represented on our panel. So we really appreciate everybody taking their time. I'm noticing that Gail is posting in chat links to all of our panelist companies. So that's a very good resource. What I did want to say about chat, or Q&A. Anytime you guys have questions, you can post them either place. We're not going to be real rigid saying you have to do them in Q&A. Just have at it. We will keep track. And I must say that probably most of the questions you're going to post while people are talking about their products. So we'll give them a few minutes and then they can answer them either live or if I ask them, we'll answer them live or they can answer them in the chat. But I think the best way to get started is to kind of define what this Green Thumb Award is. What is this program? And is there anybody that wants to jump in and start defining what this program is?
Well, I can take a first stab at it. One of the things that I love so much about the National Garden Bureau, and I've been had the privilege of working with Diane and National Garden Bureau for almost my entire career being in the industry, is how much effort they put into helping home gardeners have success. And so this creation of the Green Thumb Awards really helps focus on finding the best of the most innovative, effective products for home gardeners and being able to pull them. And I love that there's the two categories that the industry gets to participate in and use their knowledge to make that decision, as well as have the broad group of industry plus home gardeners participate to select what they're most excited about for the coming year. Because we all know, a lot of us on the breeding side of the business or new product development, we know there's a lot that come out every single year and sometimes can be a little overwhelming or confusing for home gardeners. And so for the National Garden Bureau to help pare that down a little bit and give you a starting place to hopefully have success for the year, I think is really exciting.
That's an excellent description. Does anybody want to add to that? Maybe talk specifically about the professional choice and people's choice?
So I'll chime in on that since we were lucky enough to win both this year. So we're really excited. But the professional's choice is done by all the NGB members. So it's everybody inside the industry kind of selecting the products that they find most innovative. So it's really great to hear that industry kind of leadership are supporting certain products or finding them innovative. And then the people's choice is actually a voting out in the public. And you as consumers get to pick which are your favorite products. And so that's a wonderful way to select the things that you want to see. And the wonderful thing is, I think Heather mentioned before we got on this, is that garden centers out there are watching to see which are those Green Thumb winners. And so you also get to decide kind of what the industry is going to carry in their garden center. So it's a wonderful way to kind of connect the dots and have you be a part of the choice.
Yeah, you're right. And what I probably should do is kind of talk about the timing of this. Is we usually put these out for voting late fall, early winter. So if you've registered for this webinar or if you're on our e-newsletter database, if you're following us on social media, you will see the post to where you too will get to vote. So you can vote on the 2026 ones later this year. Which were the other?
One thing I wanted to add on to what Paula said, what's nice winning the People's Choice and Professional, a lot of times you home gardeners out there, what you see you really like, which is awesome. Sometimes in the industry, which is the professional award, we don't see it the same way as you do, and we're like, we don't know if this one's that great, whatever. But if you get both of them, both sides, the industry and all you home gardeners are agreeing. And so that just adds more weight to the award. So that's a very nice thing to have.
You're right. And sometimes it's very interesting to look at what the industry picks and what the home gardener picks, for the people's choice. They can be very different or they can be exactly the same. So yeah, it's kind of a learning curve, a little bit of research. So is there anything else? Does somebody want to talk about the different categories? We have 6 different categories for the award. They're pretty well represented by our panelists. Let's hear. So we have the perennial, the houseplant, the annual, the edible, and the non-plant, and I'm forgetting one, flowering shrub. So those are the 6 different categories, which I think rolling that out, maybe it's a perfect time where we start talking about each specific winner. So what I'm going to do is go to each slide and turn it over to our panelists so they can talk about their amazing, innovative products here. So first up, it looks like we have Dylan with the Basil Everleaf Lemon. Tell us about this. Also tell us how you would use it.
Oh yeah, thank you, Diane. No, we were really excited to receive the Professional Choice Award for our Everleaf Lemon. Super, super cool variety. And in general, Pan American Seed, one of the crops that we really pride ourselves on in our breeding program are basils. And we really are breeding basils, as I mentioned earlier, for the home garden. So what does that mean? Well, Everleaf basils are actually a collection of basils we have, with lemon being the newest. And all of them, if they have Everleaf in the name, they're all much later to flower than a traditional basil, which is, I think, excellent if you've ever grown basil before. A lot of the standard Genovese types, they can go to flower quite early, and the habit gets not so great, and the flavor maybe kind of is lackluster at that point. But the Everleafs all flower about 8 to 10 weeks later than traditional basil, so that's always a plus. And so now with this new introduction we're really, really excited to have a lemon type basil in our Everleaf collection. So going to be much later to flower versus a traditional lemon or Genovese type, 8 weeks later to flower. And what I also really love about this variety too is just its habit. It's almost hard to describe here with just this picture. But if you've ever grown lemon basil before, there's not a whole lot of varieties out there in the market. And what there is, they tend to get a little stretchy, they flop. Of course, they flower early, and the habit on this one is very, very nice. It's very contained. The leaves are very nice and close together, so you can get a lot of leaves in a small area, as you can see here. And if we could expand the picture and you can almost see the surroundings, you can see it's actually got a very beautiful sort of upright habit. So what I love about it is that it's not just very useful for the garden and for harvesting, but also very ornamental as well. So love that about this. And then, of course, last but not least, you cannot forget to mention the lemon flavor and aroma on this thing. I mean, this thing is very potent. If you don't like lemon, don't get near this plant. Every time we have it in trials or we have it at trade shows or what have you, I mean, you just walk near it and you can smell it. So it's a beautiful, very, very rich lemony aroma. So love this variety. And, I would say, to Diane's point, one of the questions that we got a lot. It's like, oh, this is great. I love this. How can we use lemon basil? And there's actually a lot of ways we can use it. Just a few of my favorite that I think are good go-tos is, using it for a tea. So of course, very, very simple, just taking the leaves off, making a tea out of it for more of a nice lemony flavor, putting it in your nice cold glass of water during the summer. And then as we get into the dishes, actually we had some folks make some really cool recipes. Unfortunately, I don't have any links to them right now, but of dressings. So making a nice lemon dressing with the leaves is very, very nice. And then using really in any sort of lemon type dish. Someone had mentioned that they were excited to use it for a lemon pesto, which I think would be a great idea as well. So love it for, again, its ornamental characteristics, its late flowering, and tastes great too.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about the pesto because I, for years, have added a little bit of lemon juice to my pesto. So now I just use a portion of this basil along with my regular Genovese basil when I'm making pesto. So very, very delicious. That's great. And if anybody has any questions for Dylan, put them in the chat or the Q&A. And Dylan, we're going to want to get those recipes and we can send them out in our follow-up newsletter. So if you can get those to Gail, that would be wonderful. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank
Hey,
you.
Dylan, real quick, I'm wondering, could you maybe explain to the consumers the reason very late to flower is such an important feature in basil?
Yeah, I think the big thing about late to flowering is it's a couple things. One is, of course, the flavor can maybe start to diminish as we get flowering. And then another thing too is actually when the plants start to flower, the habit on these plants usually goes not so great. So they start to flop. They don't produce as many leaves at that point, and they start to kind of go downhill. So I think most of those attributes make the late flowering very beneficial.
Thank you. Excellent points. Thank you. Okay, and next up in the edible category is the broccoli purple magic. And Jason, you're going to tell us about this one.
Yes, we're very excited about this one. As I mentioned, one of the classes that Cicada is very well known for is broccoli. So we introduced this one last year, Purple Magic. It is the first purple-headed, purple-stemmed heading broccoli in the world. It won, as you can see the logo there at the bottom left, it won an All-America Selections Award winner last year. So what that means for everyone out there listening is that to obtain that award, it's trialed throughout North America, and it's judged by professionals, and it's scored very highly throughout North America. So what that means for everyone out there listening is that there's a very, very, very good chance that this one is going to perform for you in the garden. So obviously, you could see that it's purple-headed, purple-stemmed. So what gives it that color is a compound called anthocyanins, which is a flavonoid, and they are, oops. Can you guys still hear me? Oh, the
Yep.
screen just popped up on me. Okay, I'm still here?
Yep.
Indeed.
Okay, gotcha. So anthocyanins and flavonoids, they are known to be cancer-fighting compounds. And because the purple magic is so purple, it has a lot of those anthocyanins, so you get a large shot of those flavonoids and anthocyanins with each serving. Whereas while a standard green-headed broccoli, yes, is still high in anthocyanins, but not nearly as high as what purple magic is. It, like I said, will perform very well in the garden. From transplant, it's kind of a medium maturity. So you're looking at about 75 days from transplant, which is suitable for probably most everyone listening in here. Yeah, so that's Purple Magic. We're very excited about it.
Any other growing tips for this? I mean, because it's purple, do you have to do anything else when you're growing it?
No, the color dictates nothing as far as growing technique. I mean, traditionally your broccolis are more of a little bit more of a cool season crop. So you're growing them coming out of the late winter, early spring, and then they mature early summer, or you plant them in late summer and then they get into the cooler weather of fall, and that's what they like. It's generally, most broccolis are generally not something that you're trying to mature smack dab in the middle of summer. One other thing I did actually want to mention about this, which I forgot. So one question we get a decent amount is, does it retain that color after cooking? Yes, but it depends on how you cook it. We have found that steaming, it retains about 80% of that color that you see there. Obviously, if you eat it fresh, yeah, it's got 100% of the color. In boiling, it'll lose about 50% of that color, which you see there. So if you want to retain that color after cooking, steaming is the best way to go about it.
So don't boil it to death.
Which is terrible to do to a broccoli anyway.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Sorry, anyone out there, if you boil your broccoli.
Okay, next up in our shrub category, Natalie, is your burning bush.
Okay. Yeah, thanks very much. Let's talk about Fireball Seedless Euonymus elatus, or otherwise known as burning bush. Now, I know that when a lot of people hear the word burning bush, a lot of you might think invasive, right? But you might have already guessed from its name that Fireball Seedless is the first and only non-invasive burning bush on the market. Now, I know that some people also might argue, and I've had the argument, that people should stop planting burning bush altogether. But what we found is it's not really a realistic expectation. It's got that eye-catching bright fall color, and it's really made it a favorite for gardeners and landscapers. And like it or not, people are going to keep planting burning bush despite its problematic qualities. So that's why it's so important to offer a better option. And Fireball Seedless is that option. It brings that same toughness and that brilliant red fall color that you expect from a burning bush, but without the risk of it spreading into natural areas or in like traditional varieties would do. Now, Fireball Seedless is another outstanding introduction from Dr. Tom Rainey and his team at Mountain Horticultural Crops Research Station at North Carolina State University. Now, Dr. Rainey has contributed a huge volume of really great, exceptional shrubs to our collection, many of them non-invasive counterparts to conventional species, including this burning bush. He has brought us some seedless barberry, spirea, privet, silverthorn, all of these great additions, and I think really forward thinking when it comes to some of these shrubs that people love, but they don't love the way it spreads into wild areas. So our next challenge was to get the word out about these improved varieties because, you know, it's all well and good to have alternatives, but it doesn't help if people keep buying the aggressive species. So the Green Thumb Award is really a great way to introduce this plant to a broader audience, like the people listening today. This is the added publicity, the stamp of approval from the National Garden Bureau brings all of our plants added visibility and credibility, and it really goes a long way to getting this plant and others in front of more gardeners and professionals alike. But Euonymus elatus is a tough sell, especially to a plant-savvy group. So you can imagine how incredibly pleased we were that the industry recognized the innovative breeding that went into the shrub and gave it the Green Thumb Professional's Choice Award. Another way to spread the word is by making it easier for gardeners to identify other non-invasive species at a critical time when they're in the garden center making landscape decisions. So we developed the In-Check Plant Program, which you can see in the logo that Diane added to the slide there. This identifies plants that have been bred to be seedless, sterile, or have a really, really low seed set with that very simple In-Check logo on their tags. So Fireball Seedless is part of that program. So let's talk really briefly about how we can claim that this burning bush is truly everything we say it is. So at Proven Winners Color Choice, you're going to see us use the term trialed and tested a lot. And Fireball Seedless was definitely put on trial before we released it. In side-by-side testing, Fireball Seedless produced 8 seeds on one entire plant. And you might think, well, gosh, that doesn't really sound seedless, but that's versus over 1,330 seeds on just one branch of a conventional burning bush. Plus, in that testing, they were not able to get those 8 seeds to germinate. So that's pretty exciting news for us. And that's why we are deciding to replace the original Fireball burning bush entirely with Fireball Seedless Euonymus in the Proven Winners Color Choice line. Fireball Seedless is a compact, low-maintenance shrub, grows 5 to 7 feet tall and wide, thrives in USDA zones 4 to 8, in full sun to part shade, and like all tough burning bush, it's adaptable to most soils and super drought tolerant once it's established.
Thank you, Natalie. I do have one question for you. When you say hardy to zone 8, is it 8A and B?
Hardiness is a funny thing, right? Because when we talk about hardiness, we're really talking about cold hardiness, right? So that's for, I know you know this, Diane, but for the general population, sorry, I'm suffering with a little bit of cough today, so I'm trying to take it down a little bit and not get too excited. So what we're talking about is if I live in a zone 8 and I can get cold, that's about as hardy as it's going to be. So I would say it's like right steady there in the middle of zone 8, maybe not an 8B. We know that this plant likes to have that coldness to get red. And also when I say part sun to part shade, I always tell people more sun, more color. So if you give it more sun, you're going to get more color.
And if you're in a warmer climate like that, it might need a little bit more shade, which then you get quite as much color. So yeah,
exactly.
Sounds like grow it, but adapt your expectations just a tad for your growing zone.
Correct.
Yeah, which is what we always have to do with our growing zones, right? You know, some of us want to push our zone and try something new, but it's all good. So thank you. That's very interesting, very innovative. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now for the next one, we are going to go to Katie to tell us about Buddleia, Little Rockstars Red.
Thanks, Diane. So, Buddleia Little Rockstars Red is actually what am I trying to say? A partnership between us and Concept Plants. And so this was actually from a breeder in the Netherlands. And the Little Rock Stars actually is a series of 5 colors, and red is one of the most vibrant. So this is a super unique color for a Buddleia. But what really is a standout feature is how short and compact these stay. So typically when you think of Buddleia, you think of a really big, stately looking shrub by midsummer. And these are really going to stay around 12 inches tall. So they make a nice border plant. They make a great container plant. So you can put them on your patio. They're really very decorative because they load up with all of these beautiful cones with that nice deep red color. And because there are other colors in the series, if you like to do a little mixing and matching, they play well within those other colors where you can have multiple colors in a single container. So lots of fun things you can do with these, but a very unique way for folks to be able to play with butterfly bush in their yard. Or if they've got a small patio, but this is definitely kind of a multi-use or multi-function plant. Uh, Butterfly bush, while they do get kind of a hard woody stem over the years, they will go fully dormant to the ground in cold conditions and then come back like a deciduous perennial each season. And they are known for blooming when you get into really the later part of spring and the early part of summer. So typically, if you've got this planted in the ground, you won't see a lot of flower color any earlier than about middle of June. But once they start blooming, they will go all the way through until first frost with various bloom cycles. So you can have color on them for a really nice long period of time. In terms of hardiness, they are cold hardy to zone 5. So when you start to get into those much colder or more alpine type climates, they may not survive every winter. And then in terms of zone 9, that's really going to be kind of the limit. They do like to be able to go dormant and cycle before they come back the following year. So it's a really fun way to experience Buddleia. It's a different way to experience it. And if you're really looking to attract pollinators, especially butterflies, this is a fantastic choice to get those little critters. Hummingbirds are also big fans of these. So it's a fun way to not just attract them to your yard, but also up into spaces where maybe you can view them up close and personal.
So
Yeah, Katie, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. We have questions.
Katie, something like this Rockstar is such a game changer for Buddleias. I mean, in Buddleias, they hold a close place in my heart. I remember growing up as a child in Delaware. We had a very large Buddleia. I don't know what species, you probably know better than I, but it was probably 10 feet tall, may have been shorter than that. But when you're a child and you look back on it, you think it's something that's 20 feet tall. But I just remember going out there and catching the butterflies with my butterfly net. So it's neat to see something like this. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And my question was going to be about containers. So, I mean, to me, it says it's built for containers being 12 inches tall. What about overwintering then, if you've kept it in a container? What kind of advice do you have for us?
So if you're overwintering in a container, one thing that we, I think in the gardening world don't always think about when it comes to hardiness is if I plant it in the ground, it's actually, the roots are hardy if they have that insulation of the ground, right? Of the soil. So when you leave it in a container and your roots are more exposed, I would consider if I'm in a zone 5 that I might want to take my plant at the end of the summertime and plant that into the ground rather than leaving it in the container all winter. If you're in a zone 6, so a little bit warmer zone, you're good to probably leave it in the container where it will winter over. But typically when I think about holding my perennials long-term in a container, I walk it back one zone in terms of what I expect it to tolerate for coldness. Because like I said, those roots are not typically considered cold hardy when they're above ground. All of those hardiness ratings are meant really with plants planted in the ground in mind.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of looking for the validation. We had that discussion before about the backing off for one zone. Now, one more question, sorry. So if you're planting it in ground, like how many weeks prior to first frost should you do that transplant?
You know, if you're going 4 weeks prior to first frost, you're pretty good because it gives it an opportunity to root in. But you know, if you are busy and maybe you don't get it put into the ground until the night before, even having that protection of having put it in the ground, it's kind of like putting straw mulch around things that you want to protect. You're still giving it that added layer of insulation. So even if you were right up to the minute practically, you're still gaining benefit.
Excellent. Okay, and how many colors did you say it comes in?
There are 5 different colors in the series.
Okay. Thank you so much, Katie.
Absolutely.
Talk
Thank
about
you guys for voting for it.
yeah, right, right. Okay, talk about colors. Now we are going to go to Lisa with her Calibrachoa.
Oh, this is super fun. So Calibrachoa in the annual world is one of the best-selling categories. It's callies and petunias all day long because of all the color payoff that you guys get in the garden. And this Calibrachoa is one of the lines that Danziger's bred. The Leahs have been around for a little while, but we are always looking to make new and different color combinations and different patterns. So we call it abstract because if you look at the flowers, they look like they've been painted with a paintbrush, almost like abstract art. And then the lemon cherry pretty much tells you it's red and it's yellow. So that's where this comes from. This particular Calibrachoa series has a nice mounded habit to it. It's kind of what I would call like medium size. When we talk about vigor in the industry, we call it a medium, and that it will pretty quickly fill out a pot, like a gallon-sized pot, or a larger pot if you put a couple plants in there. But it does branch really well. So as you can see in this picture, when they branch really well, you get a lot more flower buds. And when those flower buds open, you just have a lot more flower power. So that's what a lot of this new breeding does, is we're not just looking for pretty flowers, we're looking for good branching, we're looking for easy to grow. And the Leahs, like all Danziger Calibrachoas, we breed in a hot climate. So a lot of ours have a lot of natural heat tolerance to them. And we have found this one in particular is very special in that it has even more heat tolerance than a lot of our other Calibrachoas, just naturally. And it's really fun. One of my favorite things about trials around the country is to go at the very end when they've been growing all summer long and getting overgrown. I call it the last man standing because it's the last few plants that are out there looking good, and everything's starting to croak because it's just getting to be the end of the season. And this will be one of the last men standing. So it's super fun that way. It does stay tidy. It doesn't get super tall. Calibrachoas by nature are more mounding and trailing. It's an annual. It does like full sun, but if you're in a warmer climate, you can give a little bit of afternoon shade and it'll still be very happy. It's very, very popular to put in hanging baskets. My favorite use for it is in combos. If you look at the color wheel and you go to the other side and put maybe some purples and blues in there, it's really nice. If you love hot colors and you want to put in some oranges and some other reds, it's also very fun. It mixes really well with things like verbenas and petunias. You can mix it up and throw some perennials in there for your combinations. Or you could put a big tropical plant in the middle, like a big banana plant or something for an upright element in a container. But there's a lot of really fun things you can do with it. And because it's really unique, it really grabs a lot of attention. So this is one of those things that I like to say is, the neighbor comes over and this is one of those plants they like to talk about because it's really cool.
A conversation starter, yes.
Conversation starter, yes.
Absolutely. One question is, what's your recommendation as far as fertilization or feeding throughout the season?
I'm a huge fan of slow release fertilizer. I think it's much more forgiving. And you just follow the directions on the bag based on which ones you get. You can also give it some liquid feed and give it a little boost here and there, but I really do prefer the slow release fertilizers. And I think for home gardeners, it's a lot easier because you use it and then you don't have to really worry about it for a couple of months.
Sorry, I thought of one more question now. What about deadheading? Do you need to deadhead to keep these?
No, you don't. Most all of the new breeding that's out there has been selected for just it basically the blooms when they're done, they just shrivel up and fall off. So you never really see a lot of dead flowers, and if they are, they're just kind of falling inside the plant. You don't even notice them.
Thank goodness, less work for us. Thank you. Okay, I think that was all the questions. So now we are going to go to Allison. So you can tell us about Cosmo. I left the S off. Cosmos She Shells Red, right? Wow, can you be any harder to pronounce?
I know, say that 3 times. It's very difficult fast. This is our new Cosmo. It's actually one of my favorite Cosmos. I love all Cosmos and zinnias because I find that in the garden, especially a home garden, you can chuck them out in the garden and they'll grow up and they come up and the flowers are blooming once July hits. And what's great about this Cosmo, I call it the shell series. They're fluted petals, so they look like shells in the garden. So if you can't go to the beach or you can't go to the ocean, hey, stick this in the garden, you're kind of there. There's 3 different colors. There's a red. This is the red. We do have a lighter pink and a white, and they get medium height. So if you think of your shoulder height, they'll grow about that tall. If you're an average, like I'm 5'6", they'll grow about shoulder height for me. If you're anything taller than man, you get waist height. But I like to cut them in the garden and then stick them in a vase. And you can stick, in a vase, you cut them from your own garden. You're not expecting a huge vase life. So we're doing 5-6 days. You're going to get a good vase life on. But it's really pretty when you have them on a vase on the table and then you see them outside in your garden. And what I like to start them, I have a bunny problem. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rabbits because they have to eat too. So I like to actually start them now in trays of soil and then transplant them out into the garden as a cosmos. So they're just a little bit bigger. And something bunnies can eat everything else inside of my cosmos that are going around, but they're a unique color in a way that it's the fluted petal and the red color to it than a usual cosmo with a white. And it's just a unique thing for your garden.
I think they're beautiful. I love those tubular petals. That to me just is very striking. So
yeah,
thank
it's
you.
almost like it's inside out. You get the lighter pink or the lighter red.
Right.
Pink red. It's the breeder, yeah, for the side, and then it's like inside out pants. Yeah.
That's a better name. I won't get tongue twisted if we say inside out.
Inside out pants. Try selling that. These are inside out pants cosmos. Yeah.
Somebody would love that. Okay. So this one, unfortunately, our breeder couldn't make it on our panel. So I'll just tell you a little bit about it. I did see this out at California Spring Trials. Hellebore endless. Endless meaning not completely endless, but it definitely blooms longer than a lot of the typical hellebores. It's a spring bloomer. And what is also unique about this is, hellebores, a lot of times you put a mirror in your garden so you can see the face of the flower. So these have a little bit more upright facing flower so that you can actually see them without using the mirror or laying down on the ground to look at them. So these are from our member Monrovia Nursery, and they are bred. This is a partnership. Somebody else, who was it? Katie talked about a partnership. So this is a partnership between Monrovia Nursery, a grower here in North America, with a Dutch breeder called Hilverda Floriste. And so they're the breeder of this hellebore. Says it's hardy zones 5-9, but please don't ask me questions specifically about that hardiness because I'm not the breeder of it. But we really like having this. I think it's a beautiful white flower on a hellebore, and that was a professional's choice. Okay, next up, talking about white flowers, we have Ryan with this hydrangea.
Well, hello again. I'm really, really excited to talk about Flowerfull Smooth Hydrangea. This is the first smooth hydrangea that we have introduced from Bailey or from First Editions. And this plant came from a breeding partnership that was done in-house at Bailey here in Minnesota. We are Zone 4, now technically Zone 5, but we're still planting Zone 4 plants. Uh, it was done in partnership with Bailey and a colleague of ours, Dr. David Zlezak, who's a horticulture professor, breeder, breeds a lot of roses, Physocarpus. So if you have like a little devil nine bark, a lot of people have in their landscape. It's the same breeder. But we started this project with Hydrangea arborescens just to see what new possibilities are out there because there's really fabulous smooth hydrangeas already on the market, and we tend to be pretty slow and measured in introducing plants. We only will bring a few new plants to market every year because we really want to be sure that we have something different if we're going to introduce it, especially in a really crowded category like hydrangeas. We know we get, especially with Endless Summer and First Editions, we get a lot of questions like, do we really need another hydrangea on the market? And with this one, we said yes, because we know a lot of people have smooth hydrangeas in their landscape and love them, love the big snowball blooms. But then when they get rain or wind, everything sort of topples over. And so you've got to plan around it and tie it up or plant something in front of it that they can land on top of. And as we were going through this process, and it took us between breeding and introduction 9 years to introduce this plant to really make sure that it was exactly what we hoped that it would, we came out with Flowerfull this year, which has really sturdy stems. It can stand up to the wind and the rain and the storms. And I think this will work. I'm sending a video in the chat that you can watch. This is in our trial block that is in the middle kind of a field. It's very intentionally um, not protected with 30-mile-an-hour winds blowing it, and it stays standing upright all through the season. In fall, you go out and it's still beautifully standing up there. So that's one really key component of this. But Flowerfull also has a ton of blooms, which is where it got its name. We, again, have been looking at this plant for a really long time, almost a decade, and consistently we're seeing that this plant has 2 to 3 times more flowers on it than the typical, like an Annabelle that you'd find in a garden center. And so I just sent another photo in the chat just to give you kind of a glimpse from the production side of it, where we have it growing in what's called a bare root field, which we're just trying to put on really great roots. The top doesn't matter as much. But what you'll see is on that picture, it almost looks like two rows. And at the very top, you'll see a really like a more intense white. That's Flowerfull. And then planted right next to it with the speckled white in there is Annabelle. So genetically, you can see the difference in how many flowers this plant has, especially right here where we're just growing it to put the roots on. So we're really, really excited that it's got all those flowers, and even in wind or rain, the stems are strong enough to hold those flowers up. And then the other thing that you tend to see with smooth hydrangea is that the leaves can get tattered or they can get disease as it gets later in the season. With Flowerfull, the leaf is just a little bit thicker, so it can stand up to that wind without getting tattered, and it's got more disease resistance. So overall, it's just a really great improvement to one of those really classic plants that we all know and love. So again, when you're going to a garden center, and a number of us have talked about it, when we're bringing out a new plant that maybe in a garden center doesn't look a whole lot different than the plant that's right next to it, having Diane and the National Garden Bureau be able to shine a spotlight on these to help all of you that are gardening at home know when you go into a garden center what you can find that's different and exciting, and maybe step things up a little bit from that plant that might be right next to it, but you know the name. This one gives you that opportunity to have what you know and love, but have something that maybe is going to be a little bit stronger performer, where you have to do a little less work to make it look really beautiful in the garden.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I remember seeing these in your fields last year, and it was amazing. And that makes me think of one other thing that we will send to you. Thank you for posting the link. We'll need to get that to you to send out to everybody after. in the follow-up email. But we had a webinar yesterday about why grow new varieties, and some of the things that you've mentioned, Ryan, and previous panelists, a lot of those reasons were reiterated in our webinar yesterday. Like, don't be scared to try something new. There's a really good reason the breeders are bringing them out. It's not just frivolity, you know, not just because they want to have something new. It's to make gardening easier, you know, and you're more successful. So kudos to you guys for doing that. So now we are going to move indoors with Heather to talk about her philodendron.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to learn about this plant material. Consistently, I'm just overwhelmed by how much color is appreciated in trees and shrubs and you know, in the garden with the perennials and um, purple broccoli. Where was that when I was a kid? But it's here now, and so we're all going to celebrate that. And with that, we're going to celebrate color and has been, you know, consistently offering beautiful texture, um, interesting habits. But in this case, the people and the professional choice awards were given to a plant with actual color. So this philodendron, Orange You Gorgeous, is fantastic. The new foliage comes out. A nice citrusy orange. It has a beautiful orange midrib. And when the foliage matures, it gets a kind of a marble look, which is what you're seeing here is just the mature foliage. And it's really, really fun. Most of the, you know, the houseplants that you see, they're either variegated or they're green. And so this one is was a kind of a wonderful surprise in trials. So we introduced it as early as we could. Leafjoy is only just less than 5 years old. So the owners of the company, Jason Van Wingerton and Frank Paul, they're pushing the envelope. So they're constantly, you know, they are not risk averse. They will try it and then they will trial it and then they're going to introduce it. So what's exciting about this is, and why they actually chose it first to introduce it, is because in the viral indexing that during the plant selection and the testing, it has almost perfect viral indexing. So it means that the plant is resilient, it's hardy, it's forgiving. I will add that while it's in your kitchen, it is deer resistant. The rabbits won't eat it either, but it also won't get some of the things that houseplant parents notice in their plants. So if something dried down, it could get, you know, all kinds of fungal issues and things like that. This one is so forgiving. And it doesn't have to be because she's fancy with all that beautiful color, but in addition to being gorgeous and dramatic, she's also not effect dramatic. So if she doesn't get a lot of light, if you use it in a conference room or in your office, you can have it in very, very low light for 3 or 4 days and it has no impact. When you leave on Friday for the weekend, just get it close to a window about 5 feet. She'll color up and then you can put it back on your desk for the entire week. So it's a fantastic plant. As you might know, as members of the National Garden Bureau, Monstera is the houseplant of the year, which is fantastic. It is the sort of gateway plant to success for houseplant lovers. And so, you know, if you're successful with a Monstera or something easy like that, try the philodendrons. They're so wonderful. And especially if they're going to come out with colors like this. I mean, who wouldn't try them? So we have a website. There's lots of easy plant care on the Leafjoy website. If you have any questions, we have figured out the pain points. So we're happy to help. And we hope you love Orange You Gorgeous as much as we do. And thank you for selecting it.
Thank you, Heather. And one of the things that I should have pointed out, which is a good segue to our final one, that it won both the Professional and People's Choice Award. And so now we're going from all the plants to what you put them in, which also won both the People's Choice and the Professional's Choice. So, Paula, tell us about your gorgeous, we went from gorgeous to gorgeous, gorgeous containers.
Thank you, Diane. I have a long list after listening to all of you of things I want to grow. And we're all about making it easy, and it sounds like you are too. We really try to innovate with what we do and kind of push the envelope. And one of the ways that we've done it most recently is with our new line of circular positive planters. And so what we've done here is we know that there are certain things that we've done with our planters that make growing more sustainable. These are actually our self-watering flex planters, and we're able to grow in them and go weeks without watering. And so that allows you to use less water, less fertilizer. But circular positive is about using materials that are also sustainable. And we've partnered with UBQ Materials, which is a wonderful, innovative material company who has developed a material that is made from landfill waste. And it literally takes everything that goes to the landfill that cannot be recycled. So mixed materials, clothing, organics, absolutely everything that can't be recycled except for heavy metals and glass. And it converts it into a bioplastic that we can combine with regular plastic. And by using this material, we're removing carbon and methane that would otherwise be emitted by those landfills. But we're also diminishing the amount of virgin plastic that we use in our product. And the beautiful part of it is that it is circular, that once we use this material, we can still recycle the planter as a polyethylene, as a regular plastic. So a lot of materials out there that are used and upcycled, like wood pieces, and you see a lot of stuff like with wood chips and things like that. Unfortunately, when you add those things to plastic, it no longer acts like a plastic, and you can't recycle it easily. It is much harder, and it needs to go through a chemical transformation to be able to recycle. So we're really looking at the full life cycle of our products from beginning to end. So that's how you use it, how you dispose of it, what you do in the middle. So it's all about less water, less fertilizer, because these planters hold the water inside. You're using less fertilizer as well, which is great. I live near the ocean, and so we're always concerned with red tides and things of fertilizers going out and into the environment. So this is like the next step. And so we've added circular positive to our True Drop Flex planters as well as our Emma planters in our line. And what we're doing is trying to convert definitely the things that where the planters that last less time, for example, our Emma planters that are everyday planters, we're trying to convert those all to circular positive so that we can make a bigger impact. And so that's what this is all about. And we were happy to get both the People's Choice and the Professional's Choice Award. So super excited.
Super exciting, super innovative. I didn't know half what you told us, So that's really, really good information. And I think that is just a wonderful way for us to end our webinar today. I'm like you. I have 12 new products that I want to go out and purchase now, and Mother's Day is coming up, so maybe I can do it this weekend. But I thank all of you for coming on and explaining your products. It totally validates why they won the Green Thumb Award. And I just encourage everybody to try these. They're really good. They're going to perform for you. They're going to make things easier for you. And be on the lookout. This fall, like I said, you'll be able to vote on the 2026 nominees. And then about this time next year, if not earlier, we will be announcing them, and we'll have another webinar so that we can tell you about the next batch of innovative the Green Thumb Award winners. So with that, thank you everybody for your time, and have a wonderful weekend. Let's get out and garden and see what we can do with all these nice new innovations.